Right, good morning, Year 9, and welcome to another revision lesson on the cells topic. Today we're going to be looking at transport in cells. So last lesson it was cell division, and the lesson before that was cells. So this is the last part of the section before the questions that I have made for Monday. So hopefully we're slightly used to this by now. We are going to need to use the specification for this revision session. Again, this is showing you a way of revising. In Year 9, you probably don't know how to revise quite a lot of the time, so hopefully this enables you to come up with a way of revising that is useful and is specific to obviously the exams that you will be sitting. So we're still in the cell biology section, so when you open your specification, go to the contents page and you should be able to click on cell biology and it should take you straight to the cell biology section. Now you're going to want to scroll down until you reach this section, which is called transport in cells. And like in the previous lessons, I'm going to do the first one for you, and this one happens to be the bigger one. So we're going to do the first one with you, and then it'll be down to you to do the other two sections of this chapter. So in the center of your piece of A3 or a couple of bits of A4 stuck together, up to you, you'll need the title of this section, which is Transport in Cells. Now the first section, there's three sections. Hopefully you remember that there's three ways in which substances are transported in cells. We've got diffusion, which I'll do with you, and then there is osmosis and active transport. So we're going to take this subtitle and we're going to add it to our diagram coming off transport in cells. Okay, so I read through the first part of the specification, and you can actually combine these two sections into one kind of sentence that will cover all of that information. So I've taken these two sentences. Substances may move into and out of cells across a cell membrane via diffusion. And diffusion is the spreading out of particles of a substance in solution or particles in a gas, resulting in a net movement from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration. So I have summarized that into a sentence. So the definition is it's a net movement of particles from high concentration to a low concentration down a concentration gradient across a cell membrane. So now I'm taking the next section. Some of the substances transported in and out of cells by diffusion are oxygen and carbon dioxide in gas exchange, and the waste product urea from cells into the blood plasma for excretion in the kidney. So to do this one, I've just drawn a little diagram of a cell with a nucleus, and I've got arrows pointing out of the cell for carbon dioxide and urea, and oxygen going into the cell. So that summarizes it all and puts it in a nice picture to help us remember. Right, the next one is about the factors that affect the rate of diffusion. Now you have to be able to explain these different factors in them. So we need to know what happens, and then you can think about why that is happening as well. And you might want to add that to your diagram. That is up to you. I've put the three factors that we need to know affect the rate of diffusion. So you can see here I've got a little title saying factors affecting, and I've got surface area. The bigger the surface area, the faster it is. I've got temperature. The higher the temperature, the faster it is. And I've got the concentration gradient. The bigger the difference, the faster it is. So if you want to add to that why that is, so bigger surface area, so there's more surface for diffusion to happen, or temperature, the particles have more energy and are moving faster. And the concentration gradient, if there's a larger concentration gradient, it will move faster because it's going from high to low. Okay, next section says a single-celled organism has a relatively large surface area to volume ratio. This allows sufficient transport of molecules into and out of the cell to meet the needs of the organism. So I've got onto my diagram about surface area. So we need to know that small organisms have a larger surface area to volume ratio, and vice versa, larger organisms will have a smaller surface area to volume ratio. So if you are a small organism, you don't need a complex transport system like we do, because the surface area is big enough to provide what it needs across that membrane compared to its volume. Now the next bit is a little bit trickier. It does go on to have some other things underneath which you might want to add if necessary, but I've taken the top one, and it says students should be able to calculate and compare surface area to volume ratios. Now remember that depending on the paper for biology, it's going to be 10% math based. In chemistry it will be 20, in physics it will be 30. So quite common questions that they might ask you to calculate is give you a couple of cubes and ask you to work out the surface area and the volume and then compare it with another cube. So we need to know how to calculate surface area and volumes and then put that into a ratio. Now you should be familiar with that anyway in maths, but sometimes it's quite tricky to take what you do in maths and apply it to a different situation. So hopefully we know that to calculate the surface area, and we're on towards the top left of the diffusion bubble at the moment, if you didn't spot that. So the calculations we need to know is if I want to calculate surface area, then it's the base times the height. To do the volume, it's base times height times the depth. So you will be given cubes and things like that. It won't be any very complex shapes. They should be quite regular shapes. So if you're able to calculate the surface area, obviously with a cube, if you calculate one surface area, you'll then need to times it by the number of sides, which would be 6. And then to calculate the volume, it's the base and height of one of the surfaces, and then you would times it by the depth. And then you would put that into a ratio. So if it's asking for surface area to volume ratio, you just put whatever you calculated for the surface area, a little colon, and then whatever you calculated for the volume. Okay, so that is a summary of the specification for diffusion, which is one of the 3 parts of transport in cells. So it's now over to you to complete your mind map of the topic. So I've given you the other 2 on this one that you'll need to find out about. These ones are a lot shorter than the diffusion one, especially active transport. Osmosis has a little bit more information, but it's very similar to diffusion. So if you already know parts of it, because it comes up in diffusion, then you don't need to include it. So have a go at completing your mind map on transport in cells using the specification, and with the other ones we would like to offer prizes to what we consider the best one. So if you are particularly proud of your revision page, then please take a picture of it and send it to my email address. Okay, good luck. Don't spend too long on it. We should be going for about an hour on these, as is the allotted time. So have a go. Let me know how it goes, and then next week we're going to have a go at some exam questions to apply that knowledge to exam style questions. Have a lovely weekend, take care of yourselves, and you'll hear from me next week. Goodbye.